How many times have you felt like quitting? And how many times have you looked at others for inspiration? But the real question is, who inspires them?
Grew up in a small little town in Sault Ste. Marie, and that's where I fell in love with long distance running. The biggest inspiration to my running has been a fellow family member who's actually been in a wheelchair, and I've always told myself as a runner that I run for those who can't. When I do go for runs, it's always kind of been like I'm running for those people who never could, and I just started falling in love with the sport. It makes me feel good as a person. Like when I'm out there, as much as people say that they hate running, I'm out there with a big smile on my face. I just kind of keep thinking about the people in my life, and that's one of my big reasons why I'm running.
Rock climbing was one of the first sports that I had participated in and found I enjoyed. I found that I liked it so much that I continued going with it, and about 4 years ago I began, and I'm still doing it now.
I'd say the people around me are a big inspiration for me when I'm climbing, just because the rock climbing community is very tightly knit, and everyone's there to support each other when someone needs it, and that's just one of my favorite things about it. The constant desire to get better and to keep trying new things. I've always wanted to get better since the first time I went climbing, and that's definitely what I find drives me every time I go, is just to find new things to climb, to get stronger every time I go.
I do Taekwondo. So when I was 10 years old, my mom put me in Taekwondo lessons. Looking up to the national team at the time and watching the World Championships, seeing Canada win the first gold medals in different divisions, it really inspired me to start training and start competing. When you're training, it's just a way to take your mind off things and to relax and focus on one thing. It's kind of like the runner's high, but it's Taekwondo for me. Your mind kind of goes blank. You don't really think about anything except for where your body is, where you're moving, what your next move is. But once you have the body awareness, it becomes second nature, and it really becomes simple, what you used to find difficult.
When I'm climbing, there's an adrenaline rush, and that I always just find comes when I'm on the top of the wall, almost at the top. I'm just always really happy when I'm climbing. I can feel my emotions as I'm going.
When I'm in a situation where I feel myself slipping off the wall, I always think it's really hard to find the courage to reach for the next hold, even thinking about the fact that you might fall off.
I'm definitely a little bit scared of heights. I think that's just characteristic of me. It's definitely not the greatest thing in this sport, but it's something to overcome, and it's something that I work towards every day.
I fractured my ankle really badly. If I take a turn a different way or step a different way, I do sometimes twist it. So my legs are always taped. At the end of a run or something, I have like ice bags taped to both my legs because they just hurt so much.
I remember at one competition, if you make a mistake that's quite big, it pretty much counts you out of the podium. And I actually made a mistake at one of the provincial competitions when I was younger. And just going back, taking that break, and really being able to connect with my coach, wipe that from my brain and not let it affect my second pattern, I was actually able to compensate and not do as poorly as I had thought. So I think it's really important to have the relationship with your coach and just feel comfortable with your coach and be able to be honest about what you're feeling so that you can do your best going forwards.
I ran my first 14K, which was a pretty big one for me, seeing as I'm only ever raced 5K or 6. So this is like a huge leap. I was always having self-doubt, especially with that distance. But I don't know, I just got this like runner's high halfway through, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. Like I can keep doing it. And I finished and I looked at the stop clocks and I was like, 1 hour and 5. Like for me, that was just like, I kind of started crying a little bit because I was just, like as a runner, it's such like an unreal experience when you have an expectation of how you want the race to go, but then it just exceeds everything that you thought. And it was a really good moment.
I was working on this one wall for a couple months. It was a pretty tough wall, and I would say it was above my skill level at the time. And I kept going back to it like week after week every time I went to climb. And just the feeling that I felt after I'd finally topped it after at least 2 months, and it just solidified my feeling that if I want to top a wall that I think I can, then I know I can.
2015 at Junior Pan Am Championships was my first time on Team Canada, my first time winning an international medal, and my best friend won gold, and just hearing the national anthem and seeing our flag rise was a very proud moment, and that's one memory that I'll always remember. This past summer at Senior Pan Am Championships, where I won my first gold at an international competition. I'll always remember that. And finally in November when I went to World Championships in Taiwan, that was the furthest that I've ever been from home. I met so many different people and just the whole experience was very unique.
My end goal throughout all of this, I do want to do the Boston Marathon one year, like that's like my end goal as a runner.
And one thing that I would want to do after rock climbing is something called Ninja Warrior. And that's just because I find it's more creative and I have a lot more I can do with it. It's just a good extension, I'd say, from the sport I'm in right now.